How to navigate negative people. What a subject, a very common subject, something that we can all resonate with through our life, going into different situations, different circumstances with the people that we're vibing this human experience with. And one thing I'm discovering, what we're dealing with here is such a multi-layered process. And navigating negative people on the appearance, we could look at it very just simply. There's just a person being negative. And we need to come into a deeper state of perception and perspective on the actual situation itself. And for this video, I'm going to draw in Neville Goddard's work of the law of assumption, specifically what he said about that, his teachings on the law of assumption. And I'm going to bring in David Hawkins' work as well, the map of consciousness, to give this a real beautiful multi-dimensional overview of how to navigate negative people. And going straight into how to navigate this and how to navigate negative people is straight away to look at it as a place to grow from. Negative people, or people that we would label negative, straight away there is something there for us to learn. Florence Scovel Shinn had a beautiful quote in her book where she said, we're all taking our initiation on love. And when it comes to negative people, this is where our initiation begins. This is where our initiation on love begins. Because we can get a massive payback from just calling someone negative and seeing them under the view and under the eye of that negative person. Whereas this is a place for us to learn unconditional love, a place for us to learn love, to do our initiation of love. And I'm also going to bring into this journey that we're on right now in this discussion, to make it a little bit more of an overview. I'm going to bring in our nervous system as well. I'm going to bring in the health and status of our nervous system and where our nervous system is in any given moment of time. Gives us the ability, or takes away the ability, to view people with love. Neville Goddard spoke about the law of assumption, where he says, go into your imagination and you assume someone to be a certain way, to assume them lovingly. This is where the essence of when we say about God's work, this is essentially where God's work is. When we can learn and develop the capacity to assume someone in a loving way. Now, this quality and teaching is really tricky to deploy, because if our nervous system, if we want to go into field of our nervous system either regulated or unregulated, if our nervous system is in a place of depletion and is in a chronic state of unregulated status, being able to assume people lovingly is very tricky, because physiologically we have stress hormones pumping around our body. We are out of harmony and out of balance, which means from there the prime emotion would be fear. So we have this volatility going on within us, which in essence as well could be one of the many layers which could be manifesting and bringing in what we could label negative people into our life. But once we start to realize this reality that we're in is subjective, and we have the choice to make, the changes that we make are always made within the subjective experience inwardly. Once we learn to navigate our nervous system, this is what I find breath work really cool, that we can actually do this. We can learn to deeply harmonize our nervous system. So we can come away from the emotion of fear. We can come away from the stress hormones. We can come away from our own inner volatility, and we can find our own inner equilibrium. And it's from there that we take this gradient line of finding it easier to assume people in a loving way. When our inner landscape completely changes, the thoughts that we tune into, the images that we see, we can start to curate and fashion and create a really beautiful, harmonious inner landscape And with that harmonious landscape, it's expressed in the thoughts that we're tuned into, the images that we can construct within our imagination. And this is really cool because we can utilize this when it comes to negative people. So this is a gentle process. This is a gentle process of patience. It's a really profound journey of self-forgiveness and self-love, because there's going to be moments where it doesn't feel like anything, that things aren't changing, that maybe I'm assuming someone in a loving way and nothing's changing on the external world, because that's why Neville said that. His essence was change the inner, because that's what changes the outer world. That's the real key point, that everything that we're seeing in the external world comes from some kind of stimulation that we've given some authority to. And that's the cruncher right there, that we've given some authority to. And when we're at a certain place, and I've noticed absolute miracles happen within, I would say, with what I would label negative people and negative situations and circumstances within a work dynamic. By applying this information, I've seen people, situations and circumstances completely transform. I've seen anger, resentment, bitterness melt away and be evaporated into this like energy of love, which is activated within this environment. And it comes down to this assumption. I remember being really persistent with this, going through this real profound journey of really persisting in an assumption, especially if I first, on the first of appearance, I would label someone as being negative. I would keep going away. I would keep going into the silence, into the stillness, into myself when I had my alone time. And I would persistently assume that person to be loving. I would see them with the eyes of love in my imagination. And it's from that I saw miracles happen. And it's that in itself is totally transformational. That when you start to realize that maybe we're in a negative environment because we're at a certain stage in our journey, that one where we have the capacity and ability to be able to hold that space of, say, that negative charges going on. And from what we're learning as individuals and going into that depth of law of assumption, we're influencing our environment and the people that we're in, and we're easing their pain. We're easing their negative charge that they have at the minute. And this is why it's so profound, especially on a spiritual journey, on a spiritual factor. The law of assumption is so beyond profound. It's incredible. And David Hawkins, he has the map of consciousness. And we would essentially, when we're in ourselves feeling in a negative charge or vibration, and then we're in an environment and around people that are in a negative charge and vibration, everyone's in this survival paradigm. So the emotions in the survival paradigm are fear, anger, pride, shame, guilt, apathy. These really dense vibrational frequencies that then spawn this reality that's constructed of all these emotions that are going on. So we have volatility, we have all of this stuff going on, all in harmonious activity happening. So the journey is, one, taking a step back, that if you're in an environment like this, or you're surrounded by people that you've labeled on the appearance as negative, to straight away think this is my time. Once, if you're intrigued with this material that I'm talking about now, or you're curious with what I'm saying, that in itself is a big sign that you're almost ready to have that courage to be in that environment. You have the capacity to hold those like survival paradigm emotions and then transform them from the action that you take within your loving awareness inwardly, with your changes that you make, your persistent changes that you make with your assumptions and your imagination, by taking that perceived person as negative and then transforming them within your imagination. Now, it's not a linear journey. It's not, I assume someone lovingly and then they change, although that can happen. That's happened to me, and it's happened miraculously, even when I've been with someone at the same time. And it's just within like a few minutes, it's just all of a sudden the energy's just changed, shifted. There's been a momentum shift. Then other times, there's sometimes things that are coming up from the subconscious that needs to be healed, which sometimes would feel a bit more challenging. There's some people that bring more out of us, shall we say, that which would on appearance would feel more challenging for us. So we have to keep going back. That's why persistence in this dance is really, really important. Because some people that you can view as negative, it can be an easier journey, it can feel like an easier journey. But then we have that one, like say, someone who's just feels a little bit more challenging. So the devotion to love, the devotion to truth, the devotion to peace is what propels you forward in that persistence to keep going back, to keep making those changes. If they come up in your imagination, then there's still that like feeling of volatility where it's like, creates like a gnarliness or a contraction within. That means there's still more work for you to do. And if anything, that's showing a deeper wound. That's showing you a deeper wound that's within you, or something deeper that needs forgiving within yourself. This is why forgiveness and love are really important. Jesus said, I give a new commandment I give unto you, to love each other. And that's like 2,000 years ago, over 2,000 years ago, he was saying those teachings. And we've only really got up to this point now where we really have the depth and capacity to start really applying that, because through whatever reason, we've had to go through some dark times. And that was foretold as well within certain prophecies within the Bible and other spiritual teachings as well, that we'd go through this. There'd be an upheaval of darkness. And we're at this stage now where we're coming into this new field. We're coming into this new field of being. And this is where it's at. This is where your journey is at right now. Your initiation of love is happening, and this is where it's at. And there's still stuff going to be coming up from the unconscious, the subconscious. And we're not talking about our individual journey, but one thing we'll notice as well, that if we put in these supposedly negative environments, we will have we have greater responsibility the deeper we go into this game and into the journey. We'll also have things coming up from the collective unconscious as well. The darkness, the negativity coming up from that. So we can feel like sometimes we go through a stage where we feel like we're having everything thrown at us, and it's like, wow, like this is still going. But we come back to that persistence. We still come back to that devotion to the truth, the devotion to love, devotion to peace, devotion to joy, devotion to happiness, which keeps propelling us forward. The law of assumption is profound. It's so deep. And we've got this map of consciousness as well, which maps out where we're at. And the map of consciousness has been really great for me, because that helps me understand where my brothers and sisters are at as well. And if this is what I'm dealing through, and I'm coming into these situations now with more conscious awareness, how is it for my brothers and sisters that are not as conscious as me, and they're navigating through this not knowing, they're blind and in the dark? And it's from that the natural byproduct of that is such deep compassion for everyone I see. So that's another thing that really helps navigating, supposedly on the appearance, negative people, persons, situations. You can really feel into what everyone's going through. And it comes down to that for us to step in there. And like I said previously, a moment ago, about maybe that's why we're put into these situations, so we can be the light within that situation, within those dark turmoil, volatile, like dense environments for us to nurture our own light so it can then be shone within a certain environment, in front of certain people, so they can have that glimmer, and from there things start to transform for them too. Maybe not kind of radically, but there's something within their consciousness that's being stirred up, which may in 6 months, in a year, in 2 years, might all of a sudden propel them forward on their journey. Whew, just taking a breath into all of that. Just taking a breath into everything we're navigating as humans, through this process. So really assess, when you start to really assess, when you feel like you're in front of someone negative, really start to feel into the purpose of that person being in front of you. Start looking at that person differently. Start looking at them as that person at that minute in time is your deepest, most profound teacher. You don't need to go to a cave in the Himalayas, because the most profound teachings we can have are from our fellow brothers and sisters who are on this journey as well, but maybe moving forward slightly more unconsciously. Whew, what a journey. I'm sending you so much love. Please drop a comment if you're navigating this at this minute in time, and let's move forward together. Let's join hands, let's walk forward. I'm sending you so much love, and I'll see you all in the next video.